So my name is Kim, and I'm an investigator with the Ghostly Hauntings team. I have been into the paranormal since I was a little kid, pretty much. I have been around ghosts my whole life. My grandma's house is haunted by my family. My grandpa going up and down the stairs on Christmas Eve, even after he passed away, and I saw the ghost of my dad, who died when I was 3, in the hallway a lot growing up. So that's kind of how I got interested in that, is trying to figure out what was going on. Why is that a thing? Been into that for a while, and then I met Jeff through the haunted house where I work, Exit 13, because he was there for an investigation. And we just kind of became friends and started investigating together, and he was like, hey, join my team. I was like, cool, let's do that thing. So as far as devices go, I'm actually going to agree with Jeff that I do like the combination of the voice recorder and the K2 meter, because you can get yes or no questions right there in the spot by having them move the lights. But you can also listen later and kind of get corroboration with that. But obviously you can't, it's harder to listen to that on site. One that I am also kind of fond of is that we're gonna be exploring more is like a spirit box. Right now we have apps on our phone, and we've been kind of suspicious about how 100% accurate it is, even though we've gotten great responses. We've recently gotten a more professional one, so I'm interested to see if we can get those two to measure up together, or if we can kind of look at the app now as more of a one for entertainment purposes, and now have the more professional, better option to lean on, so we can actually have conversations with the spirits that we've come in contact with. It's hard for me to nail down like 1 or 2 or even 5, because like I said, you know, I've pretty much been around the paranormal my whole life, but one of the things I always tell everybody is I basically had a ghost stalk me the whole time I was a teenager. My parents and I lived in a 2-story home in Ortonville, and when we moved in there, I started seeing a man behind my door. And he was tall, dark, he wore a plaid shirt, and he would always just stand behind my door. So of course I had a hard time sleeping. We moved there when I was 13, lived there until I was like 19. He was always there. And sometimes I would get up in the night and slam the door, trying to get him to go away. And my family tried to tell me everything from, oh, it's just a nightmare, it's sleep paralysis, it's all these things, but he wasn't always in the corner. He would move around, he would be in the hallway, he came in the bathroom sometimes, I would come out of the shower and he was there. So that was one of the creepier things I've had to live with for a long time, was just this guy just being there, and all the tips and tricks that my spooky friends tried to like give me didn't really help any. He was just always there. The only thing that wound up working was we moved, and he must have stayed because I haven't seen him since. My husband and I, when I was in college, we had to go on a field trip for my environmental science class, and we were supposed to meet my class at University of Michigan at the aquarium. We parked. We found a parking spot in this parking lot where there was no cars, and we went into the building that we thought was the right building. It was an open building. We just walked in, and we were wandering through the school. Well, we soon realized there was nobody else there. Lights were all out, and I will go into places if I can. Like, I'll just admit that. So I was trying all the different doors to try to figure out if it was a way out, and all of a sudden we come across like this, it says museum. Shit, yeah, I'm gonna go into this museum, like, hello. So I walk in, and it turns out it's a dental museum. So it has a dentist chair, dental tools, all this stuff, and it's really, really fascinating. And it's all glass. So there was a second room on the back where they had more of the, I guess, more intense items of the display from back when dentistry was not like what you know today, when it was a little more brutal. And as soon as I opened the door, my husband said I went completely pale and just backed out of the room. And I don't remember that. I just completely went white and was just like, we're not going in there. backed out, and he was like, okay, we're not going in there, because he knew at that point to just trust my instincts when it comes to stuff like that. We backed out of the room, left the spooky museum section, and he was like, let's just get out of the building, because I started feeling like I was nauseous. And we go up to these doors, and you could see the exit. And so we went to pull on the first set of doors to get out of the building. They were locked. We're like, well, how are we gonna get out? We look to our right, and there's elevator doors. We didn't push any buttons, the elevator doors open. Nobody's in the elevator. We're like, this is getting real weird. We look again to our left, and there's a gentleman coming up to the doors, and he's dressed in like he's a maintenance personnel or a janitor or something like that. He's wearing coveralls, he's got a tool bag, and he comes in, and as he's going in, we grab the door from him and we go out. As I go out of the building, my husband turns around to tell the guy thank you, and there's nobody there. Like, he's not in the building. So we just kind of shake it off. Maybe the guy's a really fast walker. We don't know. We don't know him. We go on our field trip. We see all the really cool stuff that we were actually there to see. And then we find out we have to go back through the building to get to our parking spot. The building was completely locked. All the lights were off. Everything was off. So we went back to the aquarium to be like, we got in through this building, how do we get back out? And the lady was like, no, that building is completely locked on the weekends. There's no way you could have gotten in. I'm like, well, there was a guy that let us out. And she's like, no, he's like, the maintenance staff aren't here on the weekends. So it's kind of like this really spooky, ooky story. But it sounds like a creepypasta, but it's true. So I work at Exit 13 Haunted House. We are a very haunted building, as you might know from watching some videos that we've made there, or hopefully in the future we'll do more. My first season, I went in and I didn't know anything about this until the point where I was left alone in what was our chapel and is now our country store or saloon. So I was a nun in the chapel, and I would deliver a sermon, and I had a big staff, and so I would see this guy come in my room every now and then, and he looked like a sailor, like an old-timey sailor. Beard, very buttoned up, and I finally asked one of the guys that was in the room before me, I'm like, who's this guy that keeps coming into my room? And they're like, well, he's not alive, that's a ghost. And they're like, he usually comes around when you know that there's gonna be trouble. And I started noticing a pattern. Yes, that guy does come in when the group is going to be what I call spicy. And that's a group that gives you a problem. So I started noticing this gentleman was there all the time. He would just show up and stand in the corner and watch me. And then I would notice there's another guy up in the rafters that would lean over, and I would see him, and you might hear us reference him sometimes in our videos. We just call him Rafter Guy because we don't know his name. There's some theories. Rebecca and I hear stuff all the time when we're working in the haunted house for build season. There's the story where I have bronchitis pretty much all the time. That's part of why I have a raspy voice. It's chronic. So we're there sweeping, dusting, moving things around, and I inhale a bunch of dust and I start coughing, and it is like, you know, and we're the only ones in the building, and all of a sudden on the other side of the wall, we hear the scariest sound I have ever heard in my life. It sounded like a hyena and laughing. You can't even picture it. It's the scariest sound ever. And we were so scared that we grabbed weapons from nowhere, and we were determined there was somebody in the building. We went around and looked, we checked all the cameras. Nobody was there except for us. So I think we wound up calling it early that day. We were like, let's go home. We haven't heard it before or since. It was the weirdest thing ever. I know it wasn't an echo. Nobody else was there. There's nothing else in the building that would cause that noise to happen. My main experiences now as an adult are from the haunted house, but I've always experienced like temperature changes. This room is cold, or it just feels weird. It feels heavy. You walk in and for some reason there's like just no oxygen. You know, it's just a heavier atmosphere. So it just feels strange, especially when you're walking through a building that should be all the same, because either it's temperature controlled or it's not. There was a time we were investigating just for fun at the haunted house, and the next day I noticed there was basically like a handprint on my thigh. You could see the distinct finger marks of like 3 or maybe even like a fourth, was kind of hard to make out, on my thigh. Like higher up than a friend would have grabbed me to be like, hey, let's go to the bathroom, or are you okay, or like, what's happening, you're gonna fall down. It was up, like inside the clothes I would have been wearing. Like it wasn't where like either Jeff or Rebecca would have grabbed me, and I don't remember it. But there was like distinct finger marks on my leg. But I've never been harmed by the paranormal, and I've been around with people when they say they have. But I always try to find like, was there another reason for that to happen? Did you maybe brush up against something? Did whatever? So I always try to rule that out. But mostly for me, my physical experiences are like nausea, headaches, feeling dizzy, a pressure feeling, temperature changes. I don't get harmed a lot. I mean, I wouldn't even call the bruises I've got harmed. It's just more of like, hey, this is the thing, we're here. But you'll sometimes feel like a brush on your hair, or you'll feel someone like touch your back, like almost like a caress. But usually I'm like, don't touch me. That's not allowed. Like, it's not cool. They know they're not supposed to touch me because it spooks you. Like, but Emily, you will feel around your legs sometimes. You'll feel like a cold breeze, and it's like a little kid would be walking around your legs. I've fallen off ladders, and people have said, oh, it was a ghost that pushed you, but I'm just clumsy. So I brush a lot of that off to my own clumsiness. I think that the ghosts that we contact the most at the Haunted House are obviously Emily and Alex. Emily is, for what we know, a little girl, and she's like 8. And she has a sister that we're not sure of the name of, but I've seen Emily physically a few times. She walked through my room, and I thought it was Rebecca's daughter, but it wasn't. She had already gone home for the night. Alex is a member of our crew who unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. We'll make a lot of contact with him on the spirit box, and then also you'll get things moved, or you'll find candy in your room, and you're like, that's Alex. He will mess with the candles in the room that was his room. So we used to have one, she moved because the item that she was attached to went somewhere else. We had the one named Ruth, and she was around, it was about 2 years ago that she moved out of the building. So it's weird, I kind of miss her. Like, like she's not there anymore. You would hear like stuff moving, and she was sassy. She was very sassy. And obviously there's one that we come in contact with a lot that she actually comes to Jeff's house sometimes, Gertrude. She likes to sing, so I like that about her. She makes everything into a musical, which is something, kindred spirits, as they say. We don't know anything about her or where she came from, if she's attached to something. I don't know, because she travels. I'm not sure if she's just from the area or from the tornado that came through, maybe. It's possible. We don't have a lot of information from her, but I'm hoping maybe to get some more about her. And I do like Jeff's friend Tom, because he is a curt old man, and I like that. I like you know, he's like sassy, he's like, what? So I do, shout out to Tom. But yeah, I mean, you can't play favorites, but honestly, I like all my spooky friends, as we call it. The terminology, if you hear us talk about the boogans, that's just our like Exit 13 word for ghosts. I don't remember where we started saying that, but it was several years ago we started calling the ghosts the boogans. So if you hear us talk about the boogans, that just means ghosts. I try to be respectful with the dead, but I just physically am incapable of not cracking a joke. Which anybody that saw like our first video with the clown painting knows I will make a joke about something that's extremely inappropriate. I'm Kim. I'm a member of the Ghostly Hauntings team.